I normally lose some weight in summer, but not possible because I'm not working as hard. Fat and hairy, I think, is the summary.
Well, yes, that would be the understatement.
Ordered! Send Moorhouse to save the house! Come on, the house!
Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the Housecast. This is a podcast run by Lowerhouse Cricket Club and trying to bring a little bit of sanity into the world at these very difficult times. We have got a couple more of interested businesses looking to sponsor the podcast. We've got Alexandra Grace Law, it's a firm of solicitors in Burnley, and also SPE Furnishings that also wish to sponsor the podcast, which is fantastic. So we've got Joe Martin and Paddy Martin going to work some jingles with Paddy's new guitar and Joe's voice to get some jingles in place. Our sponsors, and obviously Johnny Russell, who has been with us from the start, from Milltown Pies and Arc Caterers. Once again, can I just ask all the listeners, it's fantastic that we are having so many listeners. We're now up to 500 and going beyond each episode, and I'm sure today's guest will take it well above that. If all the listeners, once you find the podcast on your provider, if you would subscribe, it does help us with our figures and helps get sponsorships in. So here we go. I hope everyone's keeping well. I'm Jez Hope. I'm an ex-Lowerhouse player and I'm here hosting today's show with two very special guests. We've got a new co-presenter to help me out today. We've got our current first team captain, Ben Heap, obviously a fantastic lad at the cricket club, and he's come along to help me to present this. Thanks very much, Ben, for coming along. How are you keeping in these difficult times, Ben?
Hiya, Jez. Yeah, not too bad. I think initially, like most people, the first part of the lockdown, I struggled, I'm not going to lie. But now we can get out a little bit and do a little bit more. You know, I'm finding things a little bit easily. Shelley's still been in work, grafting hard, so, you know, I've had a bit of earache off her. Just lounging around at home, not doing a great deal, to be honest. Yeah,
it is very difficult. And I suppose now, you know, cricket would come along after a winter for us, and that's what we all look forward to. But, you know, I think let's all just keep our peckers up and let's keep trying to motivate our spectators with things like this. Thanks very much, Ben, for coming on. I really appreciate your help.
No problem, Jess.
Okay, so again, I'll just mention my son, Adam Hope. He pulls the podcast together, gets everything out on the different formats. So thanks very much for doing that, Adam. Now on to our guests. We've got a guest on this afternoon. He's making his second appearance, but we couldn't not have him on this episode. It's our one and only Stan Heaton. Thanks very much again, Stan. How are you doing?
Thank you very much indeed, Jez. It's an absolute pleasure to be on again. Good to see Ben on. And especially one of our greatest ever professionals. I'm sure the supporters from that era would certainly back me up on that. And I'm looking forward to going through the games with him that was something else. And I'm willing to bet, well, I would say this to listeners who might be pottering about the house and not fully paying attention. When I start giving these statistics and talking through some of these games, just listening, pin your ears back, because it's absolutely true, yet hard to believe, some of the performances that this man put in for our little cricket club. Can't wait to get on with it, Jez.
Cheers, thanks very much for that, Stan, thank you. This ex-professional, he made a massive impact, not only on the cricket club at Lowerhouse, but also on the league. He played 7 tests for India, played 25 one-day international, and he's one-day international World Cup winner with India. He's currently a politician back in Delhi, and I'm sure Kirti will go into some details around that. Well, Kirti, thanks ever so much for coming on the show. Welcome to the Housecast.
Thanks very much to all of you. Thank you. You were a little kid when you were playing with us. Stan, obviously, the captain, I used to complete 2 runs and he would be completing his first. And then we have a good young captain now, Ben. So thank you very much for inviting me. And it's always a pleasure. I can never forget Lowerhouse for a simple reason. And that was my first stint as a professional in England. Secondly, in my very first year in 1983, when I was playing for Lowerhouse, I was picked for the Indian team to play the World Cup in '83. Subsequently, we won that. And at Manchester, I got Ian Botham in the semi-finals. And I remember when I came back, all of you gave me a great welcome. All of you lifting me on your shoulders, although we had defeated England in the semi-finals. But then so what? What the hell? So what? I was your teammate. And it was a great pleasure, really, to have played with everyone. And obviously, as the chat goes on, we'll have lots to discuss. I have lots of nostalgic memories of Lowerhouse. And I'm really grateful to you, to the entire club, for having me there for 3 years.
It was, Kirti, it was an absolute pleasure. And looking back, and like you said, I was a little kid. When we look at the stats, I think that I was about 10 or 11, but I was actually 20 when you first came over. And looking at the history, which we will go into in some depth, around your seasons at the club, and then actually going away from the first season to play in the Cricket World Cup, I am really looking forward to talking through that, of how that actually happened. On a bit of a serious note, Kirti, how are you and your family coping in these difficult times over in India?
Well, I know it's a problem, pandemic for the entire world, and all of us are locked down completely. It's been 60 days since the lockdown has been on in India. And you know me, and Stan knows me better because we used to be together pub crawling. I mean, he wouldn't come that much, but Andy Mack used to a lot. And then we had John Omrod. He used to be also in that group. I feel like a caged animal somewhere in a zoo. And I'm one of those who's a workaholic now after getting into politics. I feel very strange because I have been involved with the public. I've been thrice member of parliament from the House of Commons, which is called the Lok Sabha in India. And hence, I feel very sad sitting at home. So I'm on to my social media and I keep on helping whichever way I can to those poor people, the migrants who came as laborers from back home in the east of India. Yeah. So I'm just spending my time. My wife, my younger son, well, he is with me. He was to go to Bangladesh for his business, but the lockdown was announced and hence he couldn't leave Delhi. So we are here, and then I'm reviving my cooking skills as I learned when I was in England during my stint there as a professional. So I'm looking forward now again to I come to England every year, stay in London at Mayfair, but this time, whenever the opportunity comes, I'll come to the club, maybe on a Saturday or Sunday when you have a home game, have a few drinks. I remember Jerry Dawson at the bar. He was a big miser, that guy. I've heard that he's no more. May God rest his soul in peace. He had that Rose Grove service station across the road from where the pavilion was.
That's right, yeah.
Opposite. And next to the Rose Grove school,
yes.
If I'm not wrong, right? Where a lot of my sixes landed. So I do remember everyone. I remember Jack, who used to stay within the club premises. I mean, Jack Hayes, who was the president at that time. May God rest his soul in peace. I remember Stan and Jackie. I've heard he's no more with her. What a lovely girl she was. Please say hi if you at all speak to her. We used to go out for these lovely drinks and then for curries just outside the bus station. I don't know whether that curry house is there or not. But we went a lot when you were Bobby's, if you remember, Stan, to Padiham for that curry. There used to be a curry house in Padiham somewhere, and also one at Manchester Road. I forget the name. Is it still there or not?
That would be the Kohinoor. No, it isn't. It's
That's
the
the Kohinoor.
solicitors now. Bus station has disappeared. But there are plenty of good curry houses in and around the area. But yeah, with some happy times there. Andy McNicholas was more of a party animal than I was, Kirti. So I think you probably spent more time in nightclubs with Andy than you did with me. But we certainly...
Well, I haven't come to the nightclub yet. I'm only talking about the curry houses. In city centers and having those doner kebabs, lamb doner kebabs. And then there used to be one pub. Broadswords, I think. Is it still there?
So it's no longer there, but yeah, I remember it well. Very
Yeah,
popular.
the pubs used to shut at about 11, and we used to sit there till 1 o'clock and have drinks. And the guy, his name was Phil. I don't remember. He and his wife, they were great hosts, and you would be drinking there till 1:30 at night, and then go to Annabelle's.
Yeah, yeah. Happy times.
Yeah,
Yes. Some great times. So many people I remember. I remember Clifford. He used to love his curries, and he would invite himself home and say, "Kirti, whenever you're making curry, I'd like to come home and have some." And then he would put his teeth in and then have it, and then again take it out, wash it, and keep it in his pocket. Well, that was it. Then we had Dave Riley. I remember. Then the players, I do remember all. Phil Austin, I've heard he's no more.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then we had Brian Higgins, Higgy, the backstopper, the wicketkeeper. Then Andy Mack, Roger Bromley, Alan Holden, who would spit at the ball all the time. And, you know, as we go on the show, I would remember them. Then John Oberod, I remember very well.
Pankaj Tripathi, Kirti, can you remember Pankaj?
Oh, Chapati, he taught me how to make curry. Yes, definitely, any day. Any day. That guy, he was quite a maverick, wasn't he?
Yes, yes, he was. Tom Sullivan would have been playing in those days. I think that Graham Bushell might still have been at Burnley thinking
yes,
about
Bushell was there. Chris Blazard was there.
Brian Holmes was another. David
Brian
Keith.
Holmes, yes, and Rusty.
Fairclough, Keith's the treasurer. My right hand down on the facilities side at the club. Great lad. We'll get. I think we'll get Rusty on at some stage when we can teach him how to use a computer or a telephone.
Who was the captain in '83, Stan? Was it you? Were you the captain that year?
Yeah,
no,
he was captain for all 3 years.
83, 84.
No, Alan Holden was the captain.
85. I captained at 85. But Alan was captain the first two glorious years. Kirti, you mentioned there before the World Cup. I think people will be staggered when I tell them this, and I wondered if you remembered. You played in the cup final on something like, off the top of my head, June 25th and June 26th, the day after, you pro'd for us at Burnley. The day after you've won the World Cup, you played for Lowerhouse Cricket Club. Incredible.
Correct. I came back. Somebody came and picked me up, and I said, kindly pick me up, and we came back and played the game at home. We were playing at home that game.
Yeah, it was. It was at home, was that, Kirti?
You know, you can't resist it.
Where on earth are you from? We're from Lowerhouse. Hey up, you up. Have you been to Trip Shop?
Kirti, we're going to go into the, into your seasons and when you were at the cricket club. But a lot of the spectators and the listeners to this do like to know a little bit about the guests and about our ex-professionals. Can you just tell us how you got into first-class cricket and what your memories are of your passage into becoming a professional?
As a young lad, I used to go with my elder brother. He was captain for his school as far as cricket is concerned. And then when he came to college and to Delhi, I used to carry along my plastic bat with him and go to the National Stadium. And slowly I got interested in playing cricket. And at the age of 12, I played the 8th Division League in Delhi. And my coach was very happy with me. He came to my father and said that I would like to change his school to modern public school where there are proper coaching facilities, and the school that he's in at the moment, there is no cricket. So my school was changed and I came to modern public school, and there was a lot of cricket and a lot of, they used to promote good sportsmen. It didn't have to be, if you were not good in studies, that didn't mean you couldn't play into sports. But I wasn't a bad student either. But then they encouraged me, and then obviously I started playing for Delhi schools at the age of 12. And then I played for North Zone schools, that's the All India tournament, and went around the country at the age of 12. And then at the age of 16, I got into the county side, that's the Ranji Trophy side. And I played my first game at the age of 17 against the visiting MCC side when Tony Greig had led the English team into India in 1976. And that is when I went to college. I went to St. Stephen's College, and I did history honors, graduated from there. I had an opportunity to go on a Rhodes scholarship either to Cambridge or Oxford, but I denied that because I wanted to play. And had I gone to either of these universities, I wouldn't have had the opportunity really to play in domestic cricket in India and then try and play for the country. 80-81, I got selected in the Indian team to tour New Zealand, Australia and New Zealand, 80-81. I got 100 that year in the finals of the Ranji Trophy against Mumbai, which was almost an India side. And got into the Indian team and went and played in Sharjah, other places, played the one days, played the West Indies, played the visiting Pakistani side in India. And in 83, it just happened that somebody contacted me from England saying that if I was interested in playing league cricket, and that would be for 4.5 months. During the time in India, we used to play summer cricket starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. It gets to about 45, 46, 47 degrees like today during this time. And this is the time when we used to play our summer cricket, starting at 6:37 in the morning, finished by 12:31. Used to be a 40-over game. But then I said, well, let's give it a try. And then I came to Lowerhouse. That was the first time. I was a pampered child at home. We had so many people to work. I never had to cook, never had to wash my clothes or clean my house or change the bedding or whatever, and hoover the house and vacuum clean it. But then I learned all that in England, and because I stayed there 4.5 months. The worst was when I would go to a restaurant and eat, it used to cost me approximately 25 to 30 quid. And I would convert that into Indian currency and said, my God, that would be a month's pocket money for me. But then slowly and surely, Pankaj taught me how to cook. And then obviously there was a lot of help and friends who helped me, taught me how to do these house chores and go to these laundries and wash your clothes and do so many things. So in a way, that was a big learning curve, very good cricket, lovely guys. And I never knew, because the standard of cricket when I played A division cricket in Delhi was a little higher than what I saw there. And then obviously in the beginning, I used to get really irritated when I would find somebody dropping a catch or doing a misfield or playing a bad shot getting out or bowling bad. But then slowly and surely I realized that, yes, they are amateurs and I have to be with them. And obviously I have to be behind them and look after them and fight with them, because I myself was first time playing as a professional, because at that time we were playing as amateurs. Even if we were playing for India in our country, we didn't have professionalism at that time. But then all those top class cricketers were fit and they knew what their jobs were. But then slowly and surely I learned, I loved it, and I still visit. I'm practicing really hard. I'm about 3 kilos more than what my actual weight was when I played international cricket. So maybe, who knows, I may come, Ben, give me an opportunity to play as an amateur, a couple of games for you.
That's fantastic, that, Kirti. That's a really good insight as to how you've got where you've got to, because I was never aware of how you came to come to Lowerhouse. We'll come on to Stan in a minute, because he will have great memories of that. Ben, is there anything there that you recognise about getting a pro now, or?
Well, I've got a question for Kirti, and I just wondered what his first thoughts were when he stepped onto the field to represent Lowerhouse, actually, when he arrived in England. So on the 17th of April in 1983, Kirti, the first game was Haslingden away. I just wondered what your thoughts were as you warmed up and started playing at Bentgate. And I believe we were 4 for 44 in no time with you and Stan, Keith, and Phil Astin back in the hut watching. I don't know if you can recollect that or remember that.
No, but I do remember scoring Hurricane 153 against Haslingden.
That was 1984, Kirti, when you got the 154, which I will come to. That first game, Ben, we were beaten by 9 wickets. It was a pretty ignominious day. And Don Ormrod, God rest his soul, who was a marvellous cricketer, amateur cricketer, and professional in the leagues, professional cricketer, very good administrator, good coach, good manager. But he went absolutely off on one because we'd lost by 9 wickets in the opening game of the season. And I remember us having something of a shouting match in the committee room because I objected to him going off the handle first game. I did take umbrage at that to some tune.
If you remember that, I've looked at that game, Ben, and Hartley Lane was Haslingden's pro that day.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was rapid, Ben. He was
he?
West Indian. Yeah, he was. I mean, I wasn't playing that game, but I don't know if you can remember that, Kirti. Can you remember playing against Hartley Lane?
I don't, because that was my first game, and to be very honest with you, I don't remember. I remember the games, the derby games that we had against Burnley.
Yeah.
Getting 70 odd and a 90, or I don't know whether I got 100 or not.
No.
Hartley Lane, I played him on many occasions.
Yeah.
But I don't remember that particular game.
No.
I don't, to be very honest with you.
No.
Jez, I haven't particularly looked at 1983,
No.
but I've had a real look at 84. And Kirti's mentioned the game, and it's a very interesting one. We played at Haslingden, and Kirti got 154 in a 32-over game out of our 234. And the next highest scorer was Blaise on 20 not out, batting at number 8. He was only young, of course. And back in the day, if you were doing well in a particular position, you tended to stay in it rather than move up the batting order. And he batted at number 7, number 8 most of the season. But I remember batting with Kirti, and the plan was that we would take Hartley Lane where possible, and Kirti would take the amateurs. And I think Hartley finished up with 4 for 44 that day. And the amateurs did their best to keep him out. And Kirti really, I'm not saying he never faced Hartley Lane. Of course he did. I remember him hitting Hartley Lane for several fours. But Kirti got 154 out of 234, which if you translate that into today's terms, off a 32-over game, it's a mammoth score. And it's a mammoth score in the days where the wickets were nothing like they are today. Today's wickets, Kirti, in the league are hard, Surrey loam. We've got, every club has covers. So you're playing on a different surface. It's not as firm as a county surface, obviously, but it's much firmer.
Better than what we had in the early 80s.
For sure. And at the time, could sometimes be something of a lottery. Quite a few fixtures would be 129 beats 80, or in one case 70 beats 50. That wasn't uncommon, and scores of 154 for an individual were more or less unheard of. 234 would probably be about 290 now, and the crazy thing is we lost with 5 overs to go, and I was the captain that day, and it was probably the lowest point I've ever had in my career, in my brief spell as captain, because I delayed changing the bowling probably too long, although the opening bowlers had only bowled 4 overs, but they were going into the abattoir, they were going into the housing estate. You bowled quite tight, Kirti, that day compared to the rest of them. But it was an absolutely incredible innings from yourself, and one of many. Some of the hitting was and I really encourage people to pin their ears back. Some of the hitting, Ben, was absolutely unbelievable.
Right, let me just get straight in there, Kirti, while I've got you and Stan together. So in 1983, you played in the World Cup final under the captaincy of Caffel Dev, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, and during your Lowerhouse career, you played under the captaincy of Stan Eaton as well.
Stan Eaton and Alan Holden. Alan Holden first, and then Stan.
Well, let's just talk about Stan because he's here. So I just wondered how that differed, playing in a World Cup final under Capel Dev, and then playing under Stan Eaton at Lowerhouse Cricket Club.
Oh, you can't compare the two. It was more difficult playing here than playing in the World Cup against international sides, because at least you knew who was coming from where and what he was going to do to you. But when you were playing amateur cricket here, you had. I felt that Roger Bromley was a fantastic swing bowler. He used to bowl brilliant outswingers. But the kind of heart he should have. I used to always pump him. Come on, Roger, you are really good. You have to work hard on it. You have to do it. And he would be really brilliant in spells. And then he would completely go off, So, I thought that he had good really to get on to the stuff, the kind of bowler that he was. He was young, he was good. He bowled, he had a natural action with a very good outswing. But unfortunately, he didn't do that. Andy Mack, another guy, Andy McNicholas, he was quick. He was wayward, but he had a big heart, and he would really want to go and hit the bats and take the wicket. If that heart of Andy's was with Roger, I'm sure Roger would have done really well. Or if Roger's talent was with Andy, he would have been a different guy altogether. So it was difficult really to be handling amateurs, and then you have a Bobby as a captain, then he's trying to always be there with his baton, standing there and being very stubborn and all that kind of stuff. So I would say, Stan, take it easy. We need to, someplace we need to adjust and listen to me and do this or that or whatever. So Stan would ultimately listen to me. He would murmur a few, obviously explicit within his breath, and then would accept it. But then it was great fun, because I thought it was also a learning curve for me when you played with these amateurs. And especially uncovered wickets, and it was a piece of land rolled. You would never see the kind of turf that you would see on these first-class matches or on these county grounds. It wasn't there. But then it was tough life, and it revolved around you as a professional, because they expected you to do well. And if you didn't do well in a game and some other professional did, these club guys used to come to me. Clifford would come to me and say, "Kirti, you saw that how he played today?" They were just put it into you, all the time, fingering you. So, that used to always pep you up to do well. I used to feel bad at that time, but on hindsight, it was a great thing that pepped you up. And I said, fair enough. Fucking hell, fire! I'll show it to you. I'm sorry, don't let it go. But then, whenever he had curry at my place, he would say that, fucking hell, fire.
That's a good. That's a very good description, Kirti, of a very short paragraph around your career. That I do remember that vividly. Your frustration sometimes at maybe the amateur cricketers and maybe the umpire or the state of the pitches. What's your recollection, Stan? Is that quite accurate from Kirti?
Yeah, I think it is, definitely. I mean, we've got to remember that Kirti had come to a new country, and back home, of course, he was nearly royalty. And here he lands in Lowerhouse. And if in Kirti's case, you're at one end scoring anywhere between 40 and 140 and taking anywhere between 3 and 7 wickets, and you're being let down by the amateurs, it was totally understandable. That said, the first season we finished under Kirti, we finished 4th. Kirti had 757 runs at 44.4 and 37 wickets at 16.9, and he did miss quite a few games through the international situation with India. In the second season, we finished 5th. He broke the batting record with 1,069 runs at 56.3 and 72 wickets at 16.7. Now, those statistics, nigh on 1,100 runs and 75 wickets, are almost in the Super Pro bracket, yet we only finished 5th. So it does beg the question, what were the amateurs doing? And in many cases, they weren't supporting Kirti. And I mention all that because on occasions he did, of course, get frustrated, but it's perfectly understandable. Perfectly understandable. Off the field, things were discussed, no falling out. We had a beer after, with a discussion, we had a beer, and we moved on. But I don't want that to make it sound as though Kirti was some raving and ranting all the time. Of course he wasn't. But there were occasions where we severely let him down and he let us know. And rightly so. That happens now, Ben.
Absolutely.
And I would say this. The attitude of today's players, Ben, is considerably different from the attitude of the majority of players in my day. Jez was an exception. Many of the players played purely for recreational fun. So you transpose a top-class professional into a team of recreational cricketers playing for fun, and we had to change. We had to change. Nowadays, you've got lads playing recreational cricket who get their fun out of playing well, out of succeeding. And if that side had have had today's mentality, as I say, some exceptions, if that side had have had if our side had have had today's mentality, we would have been unstoppable. But I suppose other clubs would say the same thing because amateurs were like that in those days.
Were all of the sides like that back then, Stan, do you think? Or just a select few?
There were some exceptional sides at the time. Burnley, East Lancs, Rawtenstall. There were always teams that would be great one year, not so great the year after. And we probably, in a different season, may well have been higher than fourth or fifth, but for the quality of the other sides. And Haslington's another one. There were some exceptionally good teams, 1 to 11. If you look at the modern day success of Lowerhouse Cricket Club, we have had players batting number 11 who have had Lancashire League 50s. Joe Martin is our 9, 10, 11 with a Lancashire League ton under his belt. Well, back in the day, and this is a little bit of a defence of myself when you hear what Gary's had to say and Paul Stansfield about slow batting, 1, 2, 3 in the pro were the batsmen. 5, 6 and 7 might throw you a quick 20 in, and 8, 9, 10, 11 couldn't bat. So if 1, 2, 3 in the pro didn't give us a solid foundation, we would be castled. Now, that doesn't happen now, Ben.
No, absolutely.
The entire 11 can bat, have all scored Lancashire League 50s, even now, I think. And the bowling, of course, is entirely different because you're limited to the number of overs you can bowl now. Back in the day, you could bowl 25 from one end, or I think we might have even played
34 over games.
34 over games in those days.
8 ball overs.
8 ball overs. So it was a different world.
But Stan, I would butt in here.
Yeah, sure.
Had we tasted blood, had a team tasted blood, the way these guys have won the league 3 or 4 times, they know what winning means, what pride means. Had we been anywhere near there or tasted blood by winning the tournament, I'm sure the attitude would have been absolutely different. Do you agree with me?
You're absolutely spot on, Kirti. One of the differences I would venture to suggest as well is that all of the current first 11 who are products of our own juniors, which is, I think, a large percentage of them, 9 out of the 12 maybe, and Finch's been with us probably 15 years, maybe more. They're used to winning. Because as juniors, they very, very rarely, and Ben's been through this, although Ben was at the sort of front end, but people like Paddy and Joe Martin, Johnny Whitehead, Matt Walker, the Baileys, obviously three of them are no longer with us, never saw defeat as a junior. And winning is a good habit. So these kids who came into the third 11 when they were 14, 15, all of those that I've mentioned, and possibly yourself, Ben, on their debut in the third 11, started off with a maiden 50.
Wow.
You know, so they're used to being able to succeed. And I don't think that can be ignored when you look at the success that we've had, because they know how to win. And back in the day, we'd been runners-up in 82. We'd been in the cup final in 1980, but we didn't know how to win. And there's a certain mentality to that, Kirti, as you say. And I think that's a huge difference.
Kirti, I'm looking at the whole league's averages, and particularly you topped it, beating Madden Lal by 61 runs. What's your recollection of that season? How did you feel that season went for you personally first, and then also for the club?
I think 84 was a very successful season for me. And because I got the record, the batting record, then I picked up over 70 odd wickets, I think. I don't know if I'm correct, more than 5 wickets 7 times, something like that. And by that time, in my second year, I had understood, after having played the first year, because obviously I had to miss out in between, then I came back again, there was a break. But then whatever little I had learned, I knew when I came in 84 that there is a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. And I'll have to take the team, and I can't get frustrated, and I can't really go there as a professional and speak to them. I think I may tell them where they are wrong, but then I have to really take them along with me. And hence you will find that a lot of other players also side by side have done well in 84, if I'm not mistaken. And so it was first year, 83 was something where I would get frustrated and expect a lot of things from them. In 84, I knew the limitations, and I had to bring out the best playing alongside these chaps who were either batting with me or bowling at the other end, and play with them, play around with them, take the responsibility, work hard for the games. And then I realized that everybody loved that hat money that used to come in when I used to get a 50. So I used to get my 50, normally the way I play. And then from 50 to 100, when they were collecting money, I used to go and start hitting 6s and 4s. So people would get excited and, put in more. And whenever there was more than 100 quid in that hat, the guys would say, not 1 round, but 2, Kirti. I would say, fair enough, guys, take 2 rounds, no problems at all. And that is how it used to go. My best year that I have played my professional cricket in England, because I played in Sunderland. And in Sunderland, the very first year, I broke the club record. That was, I think, 1,300 some odd runs scored by somebody. I was playing for Sunderland Cricket Club. That was the Sunderland Football Club. And I straight away broke that. But then those professionals, the wickets was better. They were a little more professional in their attitude. And 84, because as a professional, I had to take the team along with me. That also taught me when I captained my Ranji Trophy side in Delhi, even though they were all playing first-class cricket. But then that responsibility that I learned in 84 was also very good for me. It was a learning curve for me, not only in cricket, but also in life, how to handle family, how to handle friends, how to handle other things, and not be really wild. So I was wild, but to a lesser extent after 84.
The art of winning. It's once you've got that mentality of winning, and it's quite easy then to keep that going. But until you get it, it's difficult. Stan, I know you agree with that. Have you any other comments around that season and what Kirti's just mentioned?
He scored 101 against Tolmadon. A feature of those 2 seasons in particular were me going into Lowerhouse Junior School on the Monday morning and getting the balls back from the caretaker who I knew. And we're talking here, it not only hitting the ball out of the ground, across the park, over Liverpool Road, into Lowerhouse schoolyard. They were absolutely phenomenal hits. I was at the crease with Kirti that season when he took 22 off 1 over against Nelson. Also that season, Collis King was in the league. So you can imagine, Collis King, of course, was a phenomenal hitter and a West Indian Test cricketer. You can imagine the excitement in the league. And if you compare it to today, and that's no disrespect to any of today's professionals, but these were Test cricketers. So you can imagine the excitement in the league when Lowerhouse played Cone, battle of the big hitters. Now moving on to 84.
Yeah.
Talked about the 154. But Kirti went through a patch of Enfield away, 70 and 6 for 39. Church away, 5 for 56. Burnley, 104. Now that day against Burnley, if I can just concentrate on that, not just because Higgy and myself put 94 on for the opening wicket. Higgy got 53. Kirti got 104, mostly against Madassa, a Pakistan international Test cricketer and bowler. And Kirti's second 50 came in 5 overs. And bearing in mind, this is, 35 years ago. Can still remember one particular shot. And it was, the ball was asking for a cut shot. And Kirti pulled it, and it never went any lower or higher than the point that it left his bat, sent spectators diving for cover and crashed into the back of a form in front of the park. Absolutely incredible shot, as I say, never went any higher than 4 feet off the ground for 6 from a flat bat. Absolutely unbelievable. Rod Estwick, a West Indian Test bowler, repeatedly into Lowerhouse Junior School. Cone again in 1984. Kirti 4 wickets and 43 not out. Collis 29. The late great Phil Astin caught Collis out on the boundary edge, and he trapped it in his testicles as he fumbled the ball as he fell to the floor. Great days. Just mention another one, if I may. We played Enfield away from home. We were 25 for 2, and Madan Lal, Indian Test colleague of Kirti's, very good bowler. Madan Lal and Peter Holt, who was a very tasty amateur bowler, were bowling. And it was a wet wicket, as they all were, seemingly in those days. And the ball spitting, taking lumps. Somehow we've got to 25 for 2. I'm still at the crease. Kirti comes out to bat at number 4. I've been thinking, this is that bad. Maybe they'll drop him down the order just to save him till the pitch improves. In those days, the pitch would improve as the game went on. So Kirti comes out to bat. I said to him, Kirti, because he did like to play shots. I said, take it free. This is a minefield. Be careful. Be careful. No problem, Stan. No problem. He then smashed Peter Holt to all ends of the pitch and got about 25 off the over after I'd told him to be careful. He finished up. I got 35. Kirti got 129. We were 190 all out. And the 9th wicket with Kirti and Roger Bromley was a 49 stand, and Roger was not out. So Kirti got all 49 runs in the 9th. And believe it or not, he took 6 for 86, and we only won by 1 run. Because as it did in those days, the wicket dried out, rolled out nicely, and played well. But it's just phenomenal cricket. You scored your 1,000th run that season, Kirti, in the last game of the season at Church. You got 85. And you took your 100th wicket in Lancashire League cricket. Bear in mind, that's in a season and 3 quarters, with a 7 for 67 in the same game. I'll just tell one more story.
Yeah, no, carry on, Stan. Please do.
Although we've talked about the frustrations, but Kirti did like a laugh. There was certainly no misery. Liked to laugh. And we played at Accrington, and I'm fielding at 3rd man as usual. and Kirti's at second slip. It's a slow track, so we didn't have a first slip. Kirti's at second slip. So I'm sort of looking over Kirti's shoulder from a distance. Bob Ormrod's the bowler. It's the first ball of the game, and Nick Marsh is batting. Bob Ormrod bowls the worst ball I've ever seen. It bounced halfway down the track and sat up on this soft wicket and virtually said, "You can put me anywhere in the universe." It was that bad. I saw Kirti put his hands in his pockets, obviously expecting the ball to be dispatched somewhere in Europe, and he was keeping his hands warm. And Nick Marsh, who was no hitter, took a great big swipe at the ball and edged it to Kirti. He wanted to take his hands out of the pockets to catch the ball. And I'll never forget it. He caught the ball, he turned around to me and just laughed his head off. It was the worst piece of batting and bowling you've ever seen. And Kirti has to take his hands out of his pockets to catch the ball. Honestly.
I remember when I used to bowl my quickish off spin, Brian Higgy used to go back. And, I would say I'm a spinner, I'm bowling quickish off spin. And, why the hell are you going so back? I don't go back so far for my holidays. And I don't expect you to go there. And so he would miss a lot. My anger would get onto him, and I used to feel really sorry when I would see, say, 15 extras or 10 extras or 11 extras, because you score those runs, you earn those runs, and you expect the keeper to do really well. But then Higgy tried his level best. He was a good trier, though. And
he was very brave, Kirti, because your quicker ball was as fast as any quick bowler could bowl. And Higgy could never spot it, and quite often stopped it with his stomach or his chest. A big slapper.
And that's how I nicknamed him Backstopper.
But he was incredibly brave. But you did bowl your fast ball, Kirti. It was like, and you pitched it in short. It was a snorter.
No helmets.
Yes, we had. They'd probably been in a couple of years.
I think we had one to share at for the whole team. I think that was the gist of it, because I think they first came in when Michael Holding was pro in '81.
Yeah, they did. I think that was 80. That might have been 83. 83, 4, something like that.
No, it was 81, Stan.
I don't think so. Michael was there with us in 83, 84.
Oh,
no, he wasn't.
Right, 81. Alex came in then in 81. That was the first season I wore one.
I remember a beautiful press clipping. He was talking about Collis, so I didn't disturb him in between. I didn't interrupt. Was when I hit those sixes, the Lancashire Post, that's the newspaper? And aside Collis, the new king of Lancashire League has arrived. And I remember that I have that cutting somewhere. I lost it in a big fire. The beautiful ball that I was given by Lowerhouse for my record breaking. I lost everything in that fire. Everything gone.
Kirti, that season you hit 76 sixes.
My God.
You mentioned the six-a-side at Todmorden against Rottenstone. You got a ton. I don't think it was a 10-over game, because you were hitting sixes right, left and centre. You were hitting them into Centreville Park, Halifax Road, Burnley Road, over the school, into the forest. And I remember Glenn Barlow, the Rottenstone player, saying, "Well, at least I can say I was here when it happened." And we won the competition. You got 101. We got 109, and Andy McNicholas was 5 not out. And the greatest thing about it, because it was a day of fun, between every game, you were downing 2 or 3 Bacardi and Cokes.
That's right.
So when you went into that final, you had probably half a dozen Bacardi and Cokes under your belt. But it was a glorious day, big crowd, and my, did they get entertained.
Was that your second year with us, Kirti? Was that 84, that six-a-side?
Yeah, that was second year. Yeah. I told you, that's a year when I learned myself a lot, how to be along with the amateurs, how to help them out. And it was my second year, my best season, the most enjoyable one for me, because I picked up wickets, scored runs, and when I hit sixes, I got that Lancashire Post, standard side Collis, the new king of Lancashire League has arrived. I managed to have a lot of supporters coming in. There were these big lads. Stan, do you remember those big fat little lads that used to drink 10 or 15 pints, and Kirti, they would go all the time from near the pavilion outside? You remember that, Stan?
Top step lads, yeah.
Do they still come or anything of the sorts? Any news about them?
No, I have seen one of them since. Strangely enough, as we got better, those lads disappeared. I've often thought that they possibly came to watch us in the bad old days, obviously before you arrived, Kirti, before we finished runners-up in '82. Possibly came to watch us for the fun aspect of it, came to sort of take the mickey really, but as we got better, they sort of faded away.
Yeah, but then I remember they appreciating me all the time and going, Kirti, Kirti, and really enjoying, and they used to contribute a lot to the hat money. As far as I remember, then he would come into the club and get me free beers after we would win, and I score good runs and hit lovely sixes. I remember those good supporters. I remember Anne, the lady who used to give us tea.
She's still a very good member. She tends the gardens on the cricket club. She's our official club historian.
I feel really bad, because it had become a family for me, the Lowerhouse. I felt so nice. I mean, sitting at the club and didn't know how to play pool, and everybody would come around and teach me how to play pool. But then my interest used to be more at the bar than to be at the pool. And then I was divided between two lovers. But obviously, bar was my first love after the game. And then going pub crawling all over town and then into these discotheques, nightclubs. I loved my beer. I loved my crawl. I loved my cricket. I loved Lowerhouse. And I loved everyone.
How old were you when you were playing in
'84, I was 25.
25. So did you have, a partner or family or children at that time?
No. I was a stag and I was enjoying myself, fornicating around.
How was it being away from home for that amount of time? How did you find it? Did you find it difficult at all? You talked about learning about yourself.
Ben, by that time, I had got used to it because I used to be traveling with the team. I used to be out 6 to 7 months a year playing first-class cricket or for India, touring somewhere for a month and a half or 2 months, or domestically, you're traveling around the country playing those Ranji Trophy matches. And that all happened from school times. And then once you started playing Ranji Trophy, you would be 3.5, 4 months away. When you started playing cricket, you would be 5 to 6 months away, 7 months away at times. My first trip to Australia, New Zealand was 4.5 months tour. That was felt really homesick. But then you slowly and surely get used to it when you start playing like that. And so I was a single man till the 30th of April, 1986. And after that, I was a tamed animal.
Until lockdown. And it was lockdown
for me from the 30th of April, 1986.
Yeah.
I love my drink still. I love my cooking. I love my drink. And I've got 2 dogs. They're very old now, almost at the fag end of their lives. I have a little kitchen garden at the house. It's a little farmhouse here. I sit with the gardener and try and bring out, like, bitter gold is coming out, ladyfinger, some tomatoes. So I spent some time like that. I'm working really hard. I want to play A division cricket in Delhi. My coach said that you should come and play with these youngsters, 17, 18, 19 guys. They're A division cricket. I said I'll open because you don't have to move your feet much. You don't need footwork. So you can play on the rise. So with mid on, mid off, up, you can obviously hit over them and score 20, 25 runs. And then just play with the guys. So when I'm there, I think when I'm going to be in England, I'm there every year. One thing I'm going to do is stand. What I'll do is I'll come for a home game. At times you have Saturday, Sunday, both as home games, or you have a Saturday game or a Sunday game.
Please do. Yeah, please.
If we have that, I'll come there. If we have a good hotel there, I'll just stay there.
If you could get up here, say Friday lunchtime, and take in a T20. On a T20, on a nice night, we'll have 700 to 1,000 people on. It's quite an event, and you can take in the Saturday game, the Sunday game, and make a weekend out of it.
I come there on a Thursday afternoon. If possible, meet with the young guys, the youngsters of the club, be with them for an hour, hour and a half, around 3 or 4, whatever time you fix, because obviously the days are very long. Be with them for a little while, talk to them, tell them a few basics, or talk to even the first team or whosoever guys are there. And then after that, if you can collect all the guys, who played along with me in 83, 84, 85. If all of us can be together, have a drink and go out for a curry, that would be obviously from my side. And that's it. Friday, we watch the game. Saturday, and then maybe that's it. I'll make a move on Sunday.
Yeah. Super.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
We can do that.
But then you'll have to do one thing for me in exchange, if possible. I have lost everything that I had from Lowerhouse. I don't know if there's a collector, who collects, who has those cuttings or photographs or anything of the sorts. if you can just spread it in the club and see if I could get a copy of that. Can it be possible?
Well, we've mentioned Anne Cochrane. I will ask Anne Cochrane if she will get down to Burnley Library and get them out from you off the old Burnley Express microfiche.
Superb. If that can be managed, nothing like it. Some photographs, I'll pay for that. I mean, I have no hassles on it. If there are photographs, and if I could get an actual photograph or whatever with the team when I came after the World Cup victory, scored that 100 against Todd, and you guys had lifted me, and there was a huge photograph at the Lancashire Post of Burnley, I don't know, Express, which newspaper. I would want that, because that nostalgia, that beautiful feeling of being there, because the first impression is the last one, and that was my first appearance in England as a professional.
Leave that with me. We'll get that sorted if we possibly can. No problem.
Is there anything, Ben, you want to bring up now?
I'd like Kirti to just touch on the World Cup final a little bit more. You know, we didn't really go into too much depth about the final itself, and his memories of that, I think.
Well, I was playing at the club and I got this call. The residence that they had found for me was in Cone in my first year in 1983. And I got a call early morning, Kapil telling me that I was selected for the Indian team for the World Cup. And so I said, Kapil, thanks very much, skipper. 1.5 months paid holiday we've got, because we never expected, you know, the odds were 1 to 99 for the Indian team. We were worst, even lower than Zimbabwe. And there were only 8 teams competing at that time. I called up Jimmy. He was in Lancaster. His wife was a doctor there. So I got together with him. The very first game was at Manchester, Old Trafford. And we beat the West Indies. The very first game. West Indies, that side was, I think, the best ever one-day side. I think nobody you can compare, because there were 5 fast bowlers, one after the other. Top batsmen like Vivian Richards, with Desmond Haynes and Gordon Greenidge opening the attack. Vivian Richards coming after that. Then you had a Clive Lloyd. Then you had a Larry Gomes. Then you had a Ford Backus. And then these 4 fast bowlers in the side. So it was a fantastic team. So we beat them in the first game. We beat Australia, and then we lost to them. Then against Zimbabwe was 17 for 5 at Tunbridge Wells, when Kapil came with that brilliant 175 not out, which is not recorded because BBC was on strike that day. So we needed to beat Australia the next game, which we did, and we got into the finals. Into the semi-finals. Then we came to Old Trafford again to play the semi-final. And I remember Graham Fowler and Chris Tavre. They were going really great guns at that time. Roger Binney got the first wicket. They were about 96 for 1 or 2. And in about 13 or 14 overs, which used to be a good average in those days. If you were scoring 4.5, which was supposed to be really good. And that is what England was doing, a little better than that. Then Jimmy and I came on to bowl. Jimmy Amarnath, who was a pro at Lowerhouse before me. Much before me. So Jimmy bowled 12 overs from one end. I bowled 12 overs from one end, non-stop, 24 overs, gave away 55 runs and took 4 wickets among. I got Alan Lamb run out, got the wickets of both of them. It kept really low. Had it kept lower, it would have gone underground. That was it. And we really put the brakes on the scoring of the English team. We won that game by 6 wickets and then got into the finals. Now, we go into the finals, 1983. These 4 fast bowlers bowl over 95. The 4 fast bowlers who bowl over 95 miles per hour. You have Randy Roberts, Michael Holding, Joel Garner, and Malcolm Marshall. And Colin Croft, people like Colin Croft sitting out, who would have played in any other side of the world. And absolutely green track. Absolute green and slightly damp. Kapil lost the toss. He was fuming because we thought it's a one-day game, and one-day game should be more batting friendly, where you give an opportunity for batsmen to score runs. And we were dismissed for 183. And here we're sitting in the dressing room. None of us had ever thought that we'll win the World Cup. It was Kapil Dev from the very beginning, a great fighter, a superb all-rounder. He always was a fighter. He would always take the fight into the enemy's camp. We came there. We went into the long room for our lunch, came back. We were changing into our fielding boots. And Kapil says, it might not be a winning total, but it's a fighting total. So lads, come on, let's fight. And there it was. You had Gordon Greenidge doing well left and getting bowled by Balwinder Sandhu, that brilliant catch by Kapil Dev, running backwards, taking Viv Richards, Clive Lloyd, everybody that they felt like 9 pin. You know, there is a movie coming, 1983. It was to be released on the 11th of August, but couldn't get released. One of the top actors and actress. They are doing the role of Kapil and his wife, and all of us have a role to play in there of how the journey took place. So you'll get a lot of resemblance of what I'm saying today in that movie when you watch it. We'll get it dubbed in English and bring it for you guys. So that was it, and we won the World Cup. Never thought of it. Went back, pinched ourselves all evening, and once we came to the hotel, we had these Sikhs, and they were there with the bhangra. Bhangra is a type of a dance with dhol. They were outside. The bar was full. The bar was absolutely chock-a-block. We had no place to go. As soon as we went in, there was a magnum bottle of champagne. It was sprayed on all of us. We were being given drinks left, right, and center. We were having it. And so I just, I don't remember who, spoke to somebody sitting next to me, one of my colleagues in the team. And I said, listen, those days we never used to get money. We used to get about 15 pounds a day. And I said, guys, we are getting these drinks now. Who will pay for it? Because we don't have the kind of money. So anyways, by that time we had a few and said, forget it. We'll see when the time comes. So we had a few lovely drinks. And then obviously by that time there were lots of fans around. So spoke to them, took them to our room, and said hello, hi to them. And that was it. And then there was this call from the club saying, Kirti, we have a game tomorrow against Todd. I said, bloody hell. I said, okay, there's somebody coming to pick me up. So someone came and picked me up from there. And then I reached at about 12:31. I was fuzzled and I said, I want more to drink and I haven't eaten anything. So I cooked myself some food. I had 1/4 of a bottle of Black Label, and then cooked food. Slept at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and at the ground. What time we started the game those days? 12:30 was it, or 2:30?
I think it was 2 o'clock in those days, Kirti.
2 o'clock. So I got up absolutely fuzzled at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Took a cold shower, and I was there, and I think I got a ton in that game.
47 not out.
It was 47. Bloody hell. I thought it was 100.
No, it's
Not out. It could have been knocked out after what you'd drunk.
Yeah, and I think you beat Burnley as well. 47 not out and beat Burnley, I think. Stan, is that right?
It was against Burnley. I can't remember the result, to be honest.
I think we just need to clear this up. So I think the final was on the 25th of June. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
26, we were playing Burnley at home and we actually got beat. It was a run rate. It must have been the weather not great. And Kirti was 47 and he was run out. Can we remember who ran you out, Kirti?
No, I don't.
No?
I don't.
Yeah,
Then I was irritated, and then I got that ton against them, I think. I scored 100 against them.
Yeah, you did. That was when Madassa was the pro. They had Mabu was pro for them on this particular day. But yeah, Kirti, that story about the World Cup, there's not many other people, I'm sure, could tell a story like that of being, you know, the pinnacle of the one-day game, winning a trophy, you know, like you said, against all odds, and then coming back and playing alongside Stan Eaton and Brian Higgin and the people like that. That's fantastic.
Yes, that's my chicken kati roll.
Oh, I love that.
And as a World Cup winner, paid next to nothing.
Correct, nothing, no money. They said they'll give us 5,000 rupees, which would be equivalent to how much? Say 300 quid, sterling pounds. And so there was, because the board was very poor, they owed about 3 crores of rupees. And so they had this great singer, Lata Mangeshkar, nice for us. And then we got 1 lakh of rupees each, which is again less than what I would get at a contract playing for Lowerhouse. And but anyways, we played for pride. There was no money, there was no television, there was no commercialization at that time, which came on later in the 90s when you had ESPN Star and Sky Sports and others coming into the game, is when the money came. And that is how now they're getting paid so well with the IPL coming in and other things. But then no regrets. I mean, what can be a bigger achievement than winning a World Cup?
Absolutely. Jez, Stan, you know,
Yes.
what an experience that must have been after the World Cup final, you know, playing and getting to train with a World Cup winner and for the juniors around the club.
Well, it was, and for the spectators as well. I mean, everything we do really is for the spectators, I suppose, and the members. But Kirti was, even though they knocked England out in the semi-final, everybody was so pleased for him. They were very much the underdogs, and the English like nothing better than an underdog triumphing. But he was treated as a real hero, and obviously,
as if Lowerhouse had won.
Obviously, you know, there was a decent crowd on against Burnley. And everybody was, you probably had your hand shaking more times that day, Kirti, than the rest of the season. That's saying something. They were great times. I mean, if you look at the professionals, if I just refer to this, in 1983, guess who was the second in the all-league averages come the end of the season? He was the top amateur, and he was behind Ross Ormiston, the New Zealand player, test player, in the batting average. Any idea who it might be, Ben?
Stanley Arthur.
No, it was Jeremy Arthur. Jeremy Arthur Hope. He had to have played 5 innings. Jez 5 times, scored 111 runs, was only 8 twice, and had a batting average. Had 2 completed innings. Only 8 twice, and a batting average of 55.5. And he was ahead of Collis King, Kirti Azad, Brendan McArdle, and Madassa Nazar in the batting average.
Jez, as a youngster, rumour has it you were a batter originally. Is that right? I know we're going off a bit here, but
yeah, no, it doesn't. No, it's all good stuff. Yeah, I did a lot of batting. We talked about it in other podcasts, and I don't know whether it was good for me or bad for me. A third 11 created, and with 3 absolute legends of the club at the time: Arthur Greenwood, Rule Reeve, and Herbert Marsden. And they took me under the wing as a batter, and it was time cricket. So I just used to block the shit out of it all afternoon and get about 10. But I got a 50 that year in the first team. And then I think, you know, a little bit of when I started to bowl, the batting just went quite rapidly downhill, really. No explanation, maybe not enough time put on it. But yeah, good memories. Yeah, we really enjoyed, you know, playing those early years with Kirti, learning a lot from that. And, you know, and as he said, you know, watching Jimmy Amanas play, I played 1 game with him. And like you said, Stan, some fantastic pros around. There really was.
Well, it's the remarkable thing about league cricket. There isn't another sport where an amateur, the Joe Bloggs who works Monday to Friday, can play, or could in those days, play with and against the greatest players in the world. No other sport like it.
Right, thanks very much, Kirti. That has been absolutely fantastic. Ben, great for you coming in and having a bit of an insight. I'm sure this has opened your eyes a little bit about the early 80s. Thanks very much, Ben. Stan, thank you once again for your research and coming in to speak to Kirti. But most importantly, Kirti, thanks very much for dialing in. I know you're 4 or 5 hours in front of us now, aren't you? So you'll be 8:30ish around there?
Yeah, it's 8:30, exactly.
8:30. Soon be time for your first black label glass of whiskey, I have no doubt.
Oh, it's already there, right in front of me.
That's very good. That's very good. Kirti, I'd just like to say a big thank you for coming on the show, and let's hope we can see you next summer. That will be fantastic. Have you any closing words you want to say, Kirti?
Nothing. Cheers to Lowerhouse Cricket Club. There it is, my black label with water.
Good.
Thank you, Jez. Thank you, Ben, and thanks to my captain Stan for a beautiful interaction this evening, and all those who are watching today, the sponsors and others who made this possible for us. Wish you luck, guys. Play well, and I hope the supporters will keep supporting the way they do. They'll be more generous towards the club. After all, struggled to win for the first 100 years, and then now we have some good lads, and they need some good support. So anyways, I'll be there next year. We'll be with the guys, maybe on a Thursday, meet with them, see a game on Friday and Saturday, and then leave on Sunday. Definitely, I'll be there with the club next year. All the best. Take care.
Thank you,
all the
Kirti.
best to Lowerhouse Cricket Club.
Thank
you.
Kirti. See you soon.
Bye. Yes,
Bye-bye.
we will.
Gordon! Send Moorhouse to save the house.